Hi, good morning. I'm Jennifer Stevens. I'm so glad you're here with us today. We're going to have a great conversation. I've got two women here with me that I respect and enjoy knowing very much. Christa Scannell, who's been with me before from Marquis. We've worked together many times and lots of good information there. And then today we're joined also by Allison Zach with Ican. And I want to start, Allison, with you. I'm going to ask both of you guys to introduce yourselves, please, and tell us just a little bit about your organization, and then we're going to jump right into the virtual event that you two partnered on and really dive in and learn some good information about how we can all do a good job on virtual events. So, Allison, let me start with you. Will you tell us a little bit about Ican and what you do with Ican?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Jen. Again, I am Allison Zach with Ican, the Institute for Career Advancement Needs. We are based here in Omaha, and we are a nonprofit leadership development organization. We offer a range of leader development programs, a lot of custom services and coaching, and conferences and events to organizations and individuals to develop their leadership, develop their leaders, their pipeline of talent, and everything that goes within that. My role as the Director of Marketing, Communications, and Events plays a kind of big role in planning our conferences and events with our small but mighty team. And we have had a partnership with Marquis for a very long time, and they're a great partner to us to produce our events. Many have been in person. The event we partnered with them on most recently in August was our Ican Women's Leadership Conference. We've been hosting that event here in Omaha for almost 30 years. So this 2020 event was our 27th annual, and we've been partners with Marquis for a while. And this year they helped us take it virtual. So I look forward to exploring that with this discussion, and thank you again for having me.
Thank you. I'm excited to hear more about everything that happened for the August event. So Christa, we've partnered together many times. I'm glad you're here, but I'd like you to tell everyone who maybe doesn't have the opportunity yet to have worked with you. Will you tell us a little bit about yourself and Marquis and what you guys offer?
Sure. So Marquis Reynolds Staging, we're a 60-year-old audio, visual, and production company. Been very successful operating all over the United States and even globally. And I'm a Director of Business Development, really focused in Texas, but in this virtual world, I am working virtually all over for our customers. And Ican is a great example of a customer relationship that we've had for well over a decade. And when everyone needed to start thinking virtually, we were able to work very collaboratively together to evolve their event to a virtual event, and it was hugely successful and just really well done. And a lot of that goes to the work that Allison and her team did to really grab onto the challenge of going virtual and make it as successful as possible for their attendees, for their speakers, and for their sponsors. And it was a great success, and I'm really excited to talk about it today.
That's awesome. So Allison, will you take us through the decision-making process? You made the choice to go virtual. You had a partnership with Marquis, so it made good sense to partner with them on the virtual. But how did you look at the event in terms of your definition of success, how you could bring your team in to understand those definitions of success, and then how you partnered with Marquis to make sure they understood what your goals were?
Sure. So yeah, this was definitely a big pivot and a big call to adapt for us. At Ican, a big part of our work and our mission, inspiring leaders, transforming organizations, as you can see here, we really hone in on authentic leadership and very experiential and transformative experiences, both on our programs and our events. So we had considered a virtual element before, but we'd really kind of honed in on what is Ican, what is our work, and we really had, in previous years, really thought that, the in-person is really what is kind of the secret sauce of our event, if you will. And it's bringing our event specifically, our largest event, this Ican Women's Leadership Conference, hosts over 3,000 people. So, we're bringing 3,000 people into one room for one day, for learning, inspiration, and connection. And so this was kind of, quite a bit of, a big challenge and opportunity for us to, kind of being pushed to have to go virtual, but to really think, how can we translate what our event is and what Ican is, and that experience and the expectations that our audience, our sponsors, our board, and all these leaders that come for this day, how do we honor those expectations and translate to virtual, something that we never thought we could do? And so that was number one. I mean, we knew we needed to go virtual. It was great with Marquis. We talked to them and they had, a lot of development going on in that space as well. So it was kind of step one of transitioning. So working with speakers was a huge one. Making a decision on how are we going to really hone in and focus on our content? What alterations did we need to make to the agenda? How can we work with our speakers to make sure that their content translates to virtual? Does our agenda need to look the same? And luckily we found that, the speakers that we had, the theme that we were telling, which this year was all around ensemble, elevating team performance, was very timely and was very important. People really needed to still feel like they were part of an ensemble amidst this pandemic, amidst remote working, and really honoring that team because people were feeling isolated. And another thing that we really found, which was really important, was this was an opportunity with this conference to create a shared experience for your team. And I think that's the biggest thing with virtual events, especially now in remote working, is some of these virtual opportunities and virtual learning experiences or conferences or whatnot is like a shared experience where everyone can come together from wherever they are that day and learn something, be inspired, and kind of have that shared experience. So we made some alterations, in working with our team, a lot of research. We spoke with Marquis, our logistics partner, Planet, and kind of shorten the day. That was a big part, to meet the attention, span of virtual. So we shortened the day, reworked some of our breaks, and worked with our speakers to really kind of tailor it down. So that was a big thing in working with our team. Secondarily, was kind of activating all of our sponsorships and partnerships that we had as well. And so we have a advocacy committee that we meet with through the months leading up to the conference. And that was a really great group for us to really lean on and activate, representing our sponsorships and our partnerships to kind of start them on the path of learning what a virtual Ican Women's Leadership Conference was going to look like. And they are our ambassadors and our voices in the organizations. And it was really great to have that layer of somebody in each of these companies that kind of knew what we were doing, what the conference experience was going to be like, what the technical opportunities and challenges were going to be like getting it set up in their organization, and really starting to tell that story of looking at our event in a new way. And then the third thing would be kind of doing some things differently. We had some things already produced for the in-person experience around attendee items that we usually have. And we decided that we wanted to still get those in the hands of our attendees as best we could. And so although our audience grew with the virtual, which was really, really exciting, and we had people join, we typically have an audience from about 30 states, but this was an opportunity this year with a number of the companies to invite their employees or clients or partners from other geographic locations. So we had some challenges with getting some things into the hand of attendees in that way, but we hosted a drive-through pickup where they could come pick up their bag. We still produced the same written notebook program that we always do. So they had something physical and tangible that tied to what they're used to from our event, getting them the same, a pen, some snacks, those types of things. And then in addition to that, kind of translating some of those pieces was working with our sponsors on how to translate, or I guess transition, the main stage moment they usually get introducing a speaker into some feature video content on their organization. So those are a couple things at the get-go that we worked on as a team with a couple different groups.
That's great and really impressive. So we just heard priorities around content, networking, sponsors, communication, taking care of your speakers. That's a lot of goals. And it's a lot of goals to achieve in a live event space where we're all, used to being. So then you have to translate or transition to virtual, and you've got to achieve, and check those boxes. And you're right, Allison, I do think that the virtual offers you an opportunity to reach out beyond your normal audience, but it also offers an array of challenges. So you've got to have a good partner. So let's turn to you then, Christa. So now it's your job to figure out, taking all these goals from your client, how do you approach that? How do you approach a collaboration with the client? Maybe specifically you could talk about the Ican event, but they're bringing in a number of touch points, a number of priorities, content that was already created, content that needs to shift. How do you guys approach that collaborative relationship?
So that's a great question. So to take a step back is that when we kind of saw this coming, we have a number of great relationships with customers across the association and conference industry, and we knew pretty early, we knew pretty early we needed to come to market with something that could work and answer these needs. And so we actually made an investment in a platform and transitioned that into our MVP platform. And it was through MVP that we could work with Allison and the team at Ican and to deliver on all those. So with MVP, we're able to handle registration, we're able to handle all the speakers, keynotes, breakout sessions. We do a lot with online exhibitors or sponsors. There's a community page within MVP so that people who are attending can find each other and grow their actual network through the website that's created. And interestingly too, it now means that we actually start to build the team around the customer in the event earlier. So in the past, maybe Ican would have worked with maybe one person early on, but now they're definitely working with two, and then we start building that team up even sooner. So they have some dedicated people from Marquis working hand in hand with them to develop their custom website to make sure that all the presenters are being communicated with appropriately. We do a lot of pre-records, and leading into pre-recorded sessions, there's a lot of time taken to check in with these presenters, make sure that everything is good on their end so that they look the very best for their pre-record. The other interesting component that I really liked about Ican was they had a number of keynotes who were pre-recorded, and then those same keynotes came in live for a live Q&A. And it was very well appreciated. You could tell in the chat, the attendees in the chat were so excited that they were actually getting their questions answered live, and they couldn't even tell, oh, I didn't know that was pre-recorded. Now here she is live. And so it was really exciting to see how that came together, and I thought that was a really good decision on their part to do some pre-recorded sessions, or many of them, and then bring those presenters in live for the Q&A. It's good for a couple reasons. It gives you, your attendees, that chance to feel like they're really part of this presentation. And then secondly, it helps you stay on time, because you can help moderate that Q&A and keep it moving. Like she said, they were trying to get a lot of information in a time span and keep people engaged. And I think the attendees appreciate that. They appreciate that it runs on time. They appreciate being told, hey, here comes a break, and these are some things you can do during the break. We'll be back in 10 minutes or 12 minutes or 15 minutes, whatever it was. And Ican did a really amazing job of communicating with attendees throughout the day. And we saw their numbers maintain, which was really good, because they ended their conference with a really strong presenter, and everyone who stayed to the end was thrilled with that. So they did they made so many smart decisions along the way, and it was really exciting to see it all come together.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, Christa, we partnered on a live event together when all this really had first hit back in April, and we had, a performer coming in live, and that pressure of staying on time, because I knew that the musician needed us to be on time to come in live for him, was a lot, but it worked out great. And you're right, I do think it's the audience appreciates that and appreciates that engagement. Allison, I'm curious, so you're obviously in a leadership role, you've got a team, you mentioned your team. How do you translate when you're having these conversations with Christa and she's telling you, we can do these things for exhibitors and sponsors and use the chat and, some pre-record and then bring it in live, and she's giving you this information. What recommendations or best practices learned do you have for those who are listening today as to how you turned around and then translated that back to your own team to make sure that, your staff, everybody from your staff, your leadership, your advisory committee, all the groups you were talking about earlier, how did you make sure that they felt comfortable with what was going to happen?
Oh yeah, that's a really good question. I think that was definitely a challenge, I worked through, because it was a lot of unknown, right? Until you got to event day and saw it all come together. and also saw how our attendees were going to react, right? It was a lot of trust and a lot of faith, and a lot of lessons learned along the way. I think for us, it was really good to know that we kind of were on a path. We had our platform, we had our partner, and we were really kind of following the direction that Christa's team and, like she said, that whole team of the Marquis crew that was working with us, kind of helping us along the way. And so it was really kind of taking opportunities week by week to kind of share with them, what did I learn? How are the exhibit booths going to look like? And when, what is the timing on when we will be ready to go to our partners and let them know what their virtual exhibit booth is going to look like, for example. At what point we'll be ready to work with our speakers. One of the things we really wanted was to still collect the same content we always would from them around, handouts, additional materials, what type of engagement pre and post event around different quizzes, assessments, tools, what content do these speakers have that we can either deliver through this virtual platform or engage them ahead of time, so we can really kind of extend that experience. That was something that we found in our research. And especially my colleague Lisa, that really kind of sources our speakers, and we did a lot of research around what is really important in virtual. And one of the things that we learned was you kind of have the opportunity now to kind of have a lot of touch points with them along the way, and engage your audience a lot pre-event and post-event as they're sitting from home or work or wherever they might be. So it was working together on that. I would say that, the sponsor and partnership piece, was huge because they had a lot of questions, understandably. And it took us some time to get those answers and to learn about how we were best going to use the platform. A lot of things was kind of quick timing. And I think as virtual events become, as this virtual industry and virtual event industry evolves, the timing will be able to be a little bit more because you can plan. We were trying to turn around and take an event virtual. So I think what's positive is that there's going to be so much more intention and understanding from both the attendee and planner perspective around what virtual looks like and what you want to do. So I do feel like our timeline was a little bit condensed, but that was the biggest thing, is just trying to encourage patience and flexibility. And luckily we found that our audience and our board and our sponsors, everyone was very forgiving and adaptable. We had a couple partners who, had a lot of, hopes and expectations around the in-person, let's say, booth experience or different things that they wanted to feature that, we worked with one-on-one to try and translate the best to virtual. And I think we learned a lot of lessons of how we can better serve them even going into next year. And so it's kind of having all of those conversations there as well. And I think thirdly, it's really kind of laying out, you're trying to over communicate to your audience for sure. I mean, we did a lot of things around kind of trying to deliver the content 3 different ways. So we recorded some videos to kind of welcome them to the platform. And if, they were more, wanted to watch a video and have someone tell them about what our event was going to be like, we did that. I tried to very much over communicate in emails with a lot of bullets and a lot of information. And also after the fact, and then day of, we utilized a lot of rotating slide decks, and we utilized the chat that Christa mentioned to really kind of try and carry them through that experience. And I think that also carries from the team, which was, kind of modeling the platform with them, making sure they got a test run of it and kind of were able to answer questions. Again, you mentioned my team. We Ican, we have a staff of 8, and so we each kind of have, own our own piece of the pie. So this is really a team effort when we put this event on. And so it was really, I kind of felt like the keeper of the information. It was really a good reminder for me to make sure I was disseminating that, make sure everybody was prepared and ready to go day of. So yeah, I think those are probably some of the things. It was translating a lot of new information and helping our whole team be ready to, carry our network through what it was going to look like and what this new virtual Ican Women's Leadership Conference was going to be all about.
So you talk about content and making the change to content. Can you tell me maybe a couple of concrete examples where you felt like things had to, I don't even know, either tighten up or maybe combine, and how did you reach that decision with your team? Like, this is how we're going to take what we've done previously and change it and adapt it to be ready for this virtual space. Can you give us a couple concrete examples of the decision process you made with content specifically?
Sure. So I think one of the things for our event is, we really lean in on content and our theme and our speakers. I mean, that is the meat of our day. We always have the breaks for, different interactive experiences in the exhibitor area and, all the normal breaks that you would, of course, take in an event, but we really lean on the content. So we have a lot of speakers. And so I think for us, we had a very intentionally crafted agenda, and all of these speakers were very intentional pieces of the puzzle. So, we definitely wanted to use all of them. So it was definitely a decision around, we made a decision to kind of shorten everybody and kind of try and keep the pace quickly. So it was, we typically have a couple longer speakers and a couple shorter, and then of course breakouts. And we kind of decided that let's just kind of hone in on like, a 30 minute speaking time for each of our speakers. And so they all kind of equalized a little bit, but it kept the pace up, and that really worked well for us. I think secondarily, we made a shift in our agenda to move the breakouts to the end, which was a bit, for us at least, a little atypical. Normally we'd have one in the morning and one in the afternoon. And we decided we didn't want to create too many opportunities in the day where, there was too many, shifts throughout the platform, number one, and then also number two, for them admittedly to kind of get pulled into something else. We really wanted them to, that's a call we ask, or a call to action we have of our attendees, is to take this day, step away, usually away from the office to the event, but step away and really put your whole self into this experience and really kind of dedicate this day to yourself and to your own development. And so we really kind of decided to create one main general session. So like one main show, and we did not really call for them to navigate out of that too much, except for at lunch, we wanted them to go see the booths. I'll go ahead and toss in a quick learning that we had. We should have thrown in more time for that. We should have maybe even extended the day a little bit to create more dedicated time for them to go visit booths and go interact and guide them through that experience a little bit. Because I think we thought we built in enough. And I think moving forward, we'd maybe build in a little bit more time, because people they don't want to leave. And that was great, because that was the experience we were trying to create, is we had this general session that ran all day. And so it was one main show, that we, basically built with Marquis. It was one main show that they sat and watched all day, and we had rotating content during the breaks and really kind of engaged them through a couple different things. And then we had a break at the end of the day, and then you went into the breakouts, and then one more break. And then a new thing that we added in, as we know, networking is always important, and networking is always a opportunity to facilitate or in new and different ways. And so we wanted, in virtual, you lose the face to face other than with the speakers and the team. And so we wanted to have an opportunity at the end of the day where that face-to-face interaction could come back for those that were seeking that and wanted that as part of their experience. And so we hosted at the very end, these continuing the conversation sessions. We had one speaker join us for one, so they had the opportunity to interact with him in a more expanded live Q&A format. And then we brought in some of our Ican faculty members to facilitate just some guided discussions for those that wanted to reflect, speak one-on-one. And then we had one a little bit more topical on an area to kind of build out our diversity and inclusion topic that we had a speaker speak on earlier in the day. Those were a lot more popular than we thought. We thought at the end of the day, people would be kind of done and getting on with their day, but we had, out of our audience of nearly 3,000, we had almost 1,000 stick around and participate in those, which we were very pleasantly surprised. And it was great to get to see them be able to, be on camera and put some faces with names. So we definitely wanted to keep some spirit of that in, and that was really great. I would say a couple other things that we did was we were very lucky that Christa referenced our closing speaker. Her name was Jade Simmons, and she's a rock star concert pianist. And so we already had some entertainment built into the day, and that really was so glad we had that at the end, because I think you can't really forget about some of those types of attendee experience things around entertainment and kind of the show factor, and to kind of break up the day. So that was, well, we were really glad we already had planned for that, but I'm really glad that we had that. And then probably the third other thing that I will mention was the live chat, because that was probably my favorite thing in the whole entire day. And that was something that I feel was actually an add to the virtual experience that you don't always get in the in-person, which was that in the moment, collective spirit, everybody getting to see what other people are saying. And I think also some people that maybe in an in-person event wouldn't speak up and share a reflection, or, when they kind of felt like they could participate, and you really got to feel the energy. And that for me really filled my heart, because I felt like the energy from the in-person translated to the virtual, and you still got to see people reacting in the moment, helping each other out, which was really cool. They were kind of each other's support, and just kind of that hooting and hollering was really, really fun to see there. So that was a decision we had to make on whether or not we wanted live chat. We weren't sure how that would go with an audience of 3,000 plus. Was it going to be too much? And while there was a lot, I am so glad that we decided to maintain that. So I would definitely recommend that as well in terms of planning on some of those different decisions as well.
That's very cool.
And Allison, didn't you say there was 110 pages of chat after it was over?
Sure was. I went to, Marquis helped us with this. We exported the live chat at the end of the day, which was number one, really cool for us to have. And secondarily, it was 110 pages long. Yeah. So that was awesome. I was kind of maintaining the Ican voice in that chat day of, and that was really fun. You definitely need somebody doing that, but you really have to stay on top of it because people will jump in and just kind of let it fly. And you know, I was kind of trying to keep in enough reminders in there, but it was really fun at the beginning. They, were, where are they joining from, and saying great things about the speakers, or if they saw people they knew in the different videos we had, it was fun to see those reactions too. So yeah, that was definitely a plus.
Well, can you tell us more about that? How does it work on the technical side? What kind of advice do you bring your clients about live chat and how to use it, how to moderate it?
You turn it on or you turn it off.
Yeah.
So the live chat feature is, again, it's across many platforms now, and people are used to it in their meetings. They see their kids doing it during school when they're probably not supposed to be doing it.
Yeah.
And yes, so there's all different options of being able to include the chat with it. And I'm kind of excited because I think going forward with hybrid, it'll be one of the things that stays. So that if I'm in a live meeting, I'll be on my device, my cell phone, and I'll still be able to participate in chat and in the same virtual chat. So I think that'll be really exciting as we transition to hybrid, because I think it is one of those elements of engagement that people are going to want to still continue to do. So, and then I think she brought up another important learning about the booths and encouraging attendees to interact with the sponsors and the exhibitors. I do feel like we're going to continue to work with those organizations, and how can they better engage with people? Can people come and visit them and get something out of that engagement, whether it's some sort of virtual scavenger hunt or virtual goodie bag that comes from that experience. And so people are given more of an urge to go and visit, and then we make it as interactive as possible with these different companies. So there's a couple of good companies, like Kendra Scott's always great about stepping up and giving people a reason to come visit, not only because their jewelry is beautiful, but they often come to the table with these events and give an incentive for people to go. Yep. And I think other organizations need to look and maybe utilize them as an example and learn from them and be like, okay, people are visiting them. What do we need to do for them to come visit us in the virtual realm? And I think organizations are learning that really quickly.
That's a great point. Allison, did you have good feedback or good best practices learned from your exhibitors and in that exhibit breakout, things that worked well? I think Christa's point's very well made. How can the exhibitor own some of the responsibility in driving people to want to be there, but then those of us that are producing the events, we want the audience to go there and take care of those exhibitors as well. So I'm just curious if you have any best practice, thoughts or recommendations on that.
Yeah, I would definitely say there's a couple things that we learned this year. Like I mentioned that I think moving forward, virtual, hybrid, or anything that I would consider doing next year. So I'll share a couple of those things. Again, building in some more dedicated time. One thing overall we learned is we planned some breaks, and we wanted them to be short enough that we didn't lose people, but long enough where they had time to do whatever they needed. I think we would have built those breaks a little longer for some additional cushion.
How long did you build them, and how long do you think you would go?
About 10 minutes, and then we originally had lunch for about 15. Now, one thing we learned as content came in from our speakers and some of the content we pre-recorded, gosh, you got to get down to that second, and everything affects. If one thing goes over a minute, the only place you have to eat up was your breaks. And so that was another learning or best practice that I would share for virtual event planners, is to cushion your breaks so you have that leeway, because we felt very importantly that we needed to stay strong to our start time, stay strong to our end time and stay strong to the start time of our breakouts and continuing the conversation. So those breaks and lunches where we kind of molded as content came in from our sponsors and from our speakers. So we would have cushioned them even more, so there was more time. I think we would have, we always told our audience in our videos and our pre-event communications in the chat to like go visit the booths, and some of them, as Christa said, had some incentives or had some offers they were doing. But I wish I would have done a better job maybe doing a preliminary communication that kind of was a preview of what you can find at each booth, because we did have a number with our sponsors and our exhibitors, and without clicking into each one. So that would be a best practice around kind of highlighting in a couple different places what they would find there, so they had kind of a clear picture of what to go look for. So that would have been kind of something fun we would have done. And then I think, yeah, just working one-on-one with the sponsors, making sure sponsors and partners who have exhibit booths or our exhibitors, making sure that they have something to offer, something that they can activate either digitally or different things like that was really important. And some great kind of engaging content from like the video perspective. We did utilize or offer to each of our exhibitors around the live chat feature. That was something that Marquis had available, where you could schedule a time, do a live chat, do a live Zoom, or have a custom contact form. And so I think our partners that utilize those features, that was a really great benefit to them, because they could kind of build out what they wanted. What information did they want to collect? Did they want to have somebody there to chat live with them? And that was one way to, try and translate that in person to be able to have those one-on-ones. So those were a couple of the big things.
Yeah, that's great. Christa, do you have any best practice last minute tips for everybody? I mean, that's a lot of really great information, and the discussion's been fantastic around Ican and this event, but you've been doing these all over the world, I guess. And so I'm curious, anything we missed or anything you'd emphasize that you've been seeing and learning as you go here?
Yes, I think the virtual event planner realizes pretty quickly that she or he is going to spend a lot of time with a company like Marquis going through a lot of the details. And we're open to that. We've built that into how we're doing our business now, to talk through these things. And at the same time, our team is out there watching conferences and events all over the place and taking notes and learning as we go along too. So it is changing, and what we're talking about today for a conference that could be like theirs in May, there's going to be a lot of dramatic changes between now and then that are going to make it even better. So we're trying to stay on top of that as well, and be on the forefront. So we're continuing to look, but it really is a partnership. And I think Allison coined a great phrase the other day of honoring the expectations. And that's a two-way street. We have to honor our expectations of our customers, and at the same time, we also understand that they are trying to deliver for attendees, for sponsors, for exhibitors, for their boss, for their boards, for a lot of people. And so working really hard to honor all those relationships, it just takes communication and connecting really quickly and really effectively. And so I think that's one thing that because with Ican's success this year, it shows that works.
Yeah. Well, I feel like my instincts are that some form of virtual is here to stay. And I've often, over the years, talked to my team about how do we take the experience that we're having in the room at the moment and amplify it beyond the room. And, the answer to that used to be social media. Mm-hmm. And I think social media is still a key piece, but I think the amplification opportunities through virtual and, through these different technology capabilities of the breakout sessions and the exhibits and the chat and the, all of that, I think it will amplify even further. I'm curious, Allison, do you think you'll always maintain a piece of virtual now going forward, no matter what happens in the live space?
Yeah, it's a great question, and obviously something that we're considering, and I'm sure many organizations, large and small. I think definitely for the near future. I think we were very pleasantly surprised by our audience and what they thought. I mean, and I will say, and some of the feedback we gathered, people still crave that in person, and they're ready to come back to that when the time comes. So we definitely are committed to getting back to that in-person experience as well. But I think the virtual is going to serve a lot of attendees really well too. And a lot of them really, really loved it. So I think hybrid is definitely the direction that we're excited to explore. What does that look like? And how do you, again, to keep with our honoring expectations, how do you try and blend those experiences so they're both, obviously experiencing the same content, but how do you, create the experience for both, but make sure there's a lot of shared experience as well. So yes, I definitely think it's something that we're looking to explore. But I think the really exciting thing is it translates so well. One of the things we did this year is we still brought in 2 of our speakers to record from a studio setup with Marquis. So we had 2 speakers that were on the stage that our audience was used to seeing. We were able to really truly make it an Ican production like normal. And so people got to, it really translated through the camera, and people really love those speakers. And then we had the ones joining remote. So I think we kind of did a test at what hybrid, having some speakers on the stage, some remote from their home offices or wherever they may be. And we got to see that shine in virtual. And I think that experience will work, in the hybrid as well. So we are very excited about what virtual can offer and what additional benefits it gives to audiences and our sponsors. So yes, we're really excited to see about what that element of events will continue to build out and look like. So very excited about that.
Definitely. And Christa, I'm assuming you think virtual's here to stay in some way.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah.
I mean, we're hearing from customers that are pushing things out later and later into 2021. So we know for sure we're doing a lot of virtual through most of 2021. We hear the clamoring of mainly the people, the attendees want to get back together.
Yeah.
So it'll be interesting how these organizations navigate. But yeah, I think through the first and second quarter, probably through the third, it's really going to be a lot of focus on virtual, and then we'll start seeing a transition to hybrid. But like I said, the attendees are demanding to meet in person, so they might have a say in this, and that switch to virtual could come a lot sooner.
Yeah.
Or to hybrid.
I think that's true, and I think it really depends on the audience, and the organization. I mean, we have clients that are definitely pushing things to late, sort of Q3, I think, 2021, and then we have other clients that are like, our audience's feedback is we're demanding it. We want to be together. We want to be in person. We want to be live. And so, we're seeing that a lot. It depends on the client, and it really depends on the audience you're trying to reach and respecting the audience you're trying to reach. And for audiences that, feel comfortable, they're ready to go. I agree with that. We're hearing that, but, others aren't. So I think it's really about having the flexibility within your organization and having the partners that you work with, like a Marquis, that can give you that flexibility so you can reach your, your goals and your audience, because it's different for everybody for sure.
Yep.
So, well, thank you guys both for doing this. It's been great. I really appreciate you. Allison, coming in. I hope it's not too cold in Omaha. We're hot here in Austin per normal. So we really appreciate you doing that. And Christa, always really appreciate your expertise and creative ideas. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Have a good day, Allison.
Bye, Allison. Bye.